Are we taking video? Are we on? Hello. It's me. And I don't know the rest of this song. I called to say I'm sorry. Hello. This is the first time I'm using my camera, so the setting is obviously quite different than what it has been for the past several weeks. Typically out in the garage, but today I'm just sitting in the house. It's cold outside. I'm tired. Just don't want to go out there. But we have a lot to do, and we have a lot to talk about. So the first thing I want to talk about is leading up to the daily driver race that I was just at. It was funny, like a week and a half ago, I was just telling Evan and my brother Alex that I may not even make it to the No Prep event in May, because I just didn't think that I'd be able to afford to be able to do the whole thing or get the car together the way it ought to be. So anyways, long story short, I got my butt in gear and decided to get it done. Couldn't have done it without everybody's help, especially on those last couple of days. So the first thing I want to do is say thanks to everyone that helped me. Let's see, need to thank Drew, Evan, Josh, Alex, James, Andrew, and Nick Baker swung in there last minute to hand me a bottle of brake fluid. Anybody that put their hands on this car, they busted their butts and helped me out. So thanks a lot there. So yeah, I worked on it for a week, right? So every night I tried to do an update on what I got accomplished. Thursday night, when Drew come over, he knocked out a whole bunch of stuff for me, and then it was looking pretty good. And I thought, well, all right. Friday morning, all I got to do is wire the transmission, throw the last year's computer in it, and be good to go. No. Friday morning, I started on it, started doing the wiring. I left. I had to go to town. I got insurance on the car. Came back and stayed on the wiring, about had it done. Evan showed up. Josh showed up out of nowhere wanting to put a nitrous kit on the car at the last minute. So that was interesting. I couldn't help him on that. I was just too busy. So him and Evan worked it out and got it lined out. Alex showed up with his orange truck, and he had a progressive controller that needed programming yet. So him and Evan sorted that out, and that was getting done. So then it was just down to getting Bill Gates running. The first start was pretty rough. It wouldn't run. We found some leaks, fuel leaks, oil leaks, a bunch of stuff, you know, when you're in a hurry and you're just trying to move, you know, you're screwing stuff together and think, okay, I'll get back to this in just a second, and then you get pulled off and do something else. So got all the leaks taken care of, get the car to finally start. It's idling really high, it won't rev up, won't do anything, just falls on its face. This is a weird deal because the only thing that was different at that point was the map sensor, and I tried using a Duramax 3.3 bar map sensor. It was a genuine AC Delco sensor, and it plugs directly into the intake like the factory map sensor does, and it didn't work, evidently. Or, you know, it worked. It's a good sensor. It's just I'm not really sure how to scale map sensors, and I'm sure that's all it had to do with, but I wasn't sure. So I had to cut the pigtail off and then use butt connectors to put in wiring for the older style map sensor, and I just used the same sensor that I used on the car last year. Then the car started and ran okay for the most part. Got coolant in it. I don't even know if it's full of coolant. Put transmission fluid in it. I don't even know that it's full of transmission fluid. The cooling fans, they weren't kicking on. I had a broken sensor, and I replaced it, and they still never came on. Well, at that point, we needed to leave. Like, we had to go right then. We were already to the point where we're running late at this point. Trying to bleed the brakes at the same time, and the brakes, I could not get them to pump up. One of the guys on YouTube commented telling me to check out the proportioning valve. So after I've read into that a little bit, I'm pretty sure that's probably what it is. So the brakes, it really never had much for brakes. If anything, maybe just the back brakes. The front brake is like it had no front brakes. The cooling system, I never did hear the fans come on, not once. And at that point, we had to leave. Evan had went to town to get a pizza and brought it back like an hour before this, and I never even had time to eat it. So I grabbed the pizza and took it with me in the car to the track and just ate it on the way there. So it's my car, uh, Josh's red Firebird with it's just a Perwell factory Firebird LT1 with nitrous on it, and then Alex's orange truck. It's got a 4.8 that we put in it with a turbo 400, 4,000 stall converter, and 150 shot nitrous on a progressive controller. The engine is it's stock. I mean, it is a factory 4.8. No gapped rings, nothing different about it. I did advance the timing on it, and I wanted to retard it, but he kind of talked me out of it there at the last second because he had also put meth injection on it. I forgot to say that. Put meth injection on it. So, okay, at this point, we're headed to town. We stop at the gas station. We all get gas. We wasn't there. 5 minutes left. We get to the track. They tell us go straight to the staging lanes for tech. So we get up there, and I see everybody else is in lanes 1 and 2. So I drive straight up through lane 3 and go straight to the front of the line because I don't know, I must have been pumped up because I thought I was running the place at that point. You know, the drive there, I did a couple of wide open throttle pulls, and that's all the testing really I did. And it seemed like it was running halfway decent, so we went with that. So I get up here in the staging lanes, and then immediately we see that there is a camera crew there from a specific channel that has a lot to do with cars. I'm afraid to kind of mention them at this point. They interviewed all the drivers and looked at all the cars, and obviously Bill Gates, it looks pretty intense at first glance when you start looking at it. So it got quite a bit of attention. It's a shame that it's as slow as what it is because the car won't even do a burnout. There's a lot to do with, you know, I know it's all in the tune, but so yeah, that's something that needs to be worked on. So anyways, the TV crew was there. We do this drivers meeting deal, and we're up in the staging lanes, and we don't know if we're going to race right from the staging lanes. We're just going to race who we're parked next to or what. So my brother had just bought and had mounted new tires, but didn't have them on the truck yet. So we're sitting there in the staging lanes. We don't know what's getting ready to happen. So we ran back there and go ahead and change the tires in the staging lanes because, you know, we didn't know whether we're racing right now or not. Josh, he was just hanging out because all his junk worked, right? The race finally rolls around. They had drivers meeting. They put us all back in the pit area after we did a chip draw. They're pairing everybody up. I get pulled up and I ended up racing a guy that's on a TV show. So in a truck called Johnny One Ton, just a flatbed Ford with a 6.0 with a programmer on it. Nothing special really about this truck. It's a 2-wheel peel because it's a dually, but it only, you know, one side. You know. So I know the car is not running good enough to even do a burnout. So I drive around the water box, and I thought I'd try to attempt to do a burnout. So it just squeaked a tire, you know, just once, and I thought, oh boy, that's it. So I go ahead and pull up to the beams, waiting on the other feller in the truck, and he does his big nasty burnout, and he pulls up there, and then we stage like we're supposed to stage, and I take off, and old car is just lazy. Shouldn't have called it Bill Gates. It should have changed it to Lazy Susan. So he's pulling away from me, and finally at half track, the turbos finally spool up, and it starts to take off. Now it's only got 6 psi springs in it, mind you, and it feels probably about like 6 psi on them. Like if you bought like a Vortex supercharger kit or Pro Charger or something like that. It felt like 6 psi, so okay. But it didn't come to life until at least half track. So then at half track, it starts to pick up, and I start to run the guy down, but I still end up losing by half a car. Okay. We got the car running at 4:30 before we left. Drive it to the track, race it, drive it home. So I really feel like I won in a way, just didn't win the race. Went out first round. Alright, so I missed Josh's run. He made a pass and he won. Don't know who he raced or anything. Alex goes up there and he rolls out there about 60 feet out, and he said the wheel hop is so bad on his truck that he has to let out of it. But that truck come to life, and he was really starting to haul pretty good. But he went out first round. Second round, somebody in a diesel truck put Josh out. So anyways, we get back home, and then obviously the whole time I'm thinking about what all do I need to change. It's a lot of stuff, obviously. So first thing I need to do, the first thing I really need to do is probably figure out the brake situation because it has no brakes. But that's not going to be the first thing I do. Obviously I need to figure out why it's running so bad. I didn't have any gauges. No coolant, no oil pressure, no wideband, no nothing. I had a gas gauge and a bolt gauge working in the car, and that was it. I'm going to hook up my wideband. And I'm going to try to teach myself how to use the FI Live. Finally. I keep trying to work on it every year. About this same time every year, I'm like, oh, I got to go to a race. Oh, I got to figure out how to use the FI Live. Just can't really get a grip on it. There's so much stuff to learn with that, and it's not really the most user-friendly deal. The guys who do use it and are successful at it end up being really successful at it. They do very well in their own businesses and whatever. So if it was easy, everybody would do it, right? So yeah, tuning is the #1 thing right now. And then the piping. There's a couple elbows coming off the turbos that they're not kinked, but they don't look very good. They've got enough room for air to pass through them. I really wasn't worried about that, but everybody looked at it and said, oh, those are kinked. No, they're not kinked. They obviously don't make the correct 90-degree turn that they ought to make or designed for. So I got to take those. I got to figure out what to do about that. See if there's any hoses that I can buy that are already made, or do I need to buy like a U, like a 180, and just cut it to the right angle. I need to run pipe up to the front of the car. I'd like to put the intercoolers in it. I need to go ahead and weld bungs in for the meth injection, and I've got nitrous solenoids. I've always had nitrous lying around. I'm going to try to use a little bit of nitrous maybe to help spool the turbos, because I think even if I do get it tuned to where it runs pretty good, the turbos really are too big and the piping is too big. But I did that all on purpose because later on in the fall or this winter sometime I wanted to start on a new engine, which I already have a lot of the parts for. I just don't have pistons and a good cam and an intake, good intake. I need an intake. So, but it'll end up being a 383 LS engine. So, anyways, yeah, all the turbo stuff is too big. I'm trying to make it work on 5.3 right now with all bone stock 5.3, except for the injectors. The injectors are decapped, and I never had them flowed, so I don't really know what they're even making, but we'll get to that. We'll work on that for a little bit. What else was I going to change? My God, the rear end in this thing. When you're in it and this thing shifts gears, I know they talk about the G-body shuffle, but I'm telling you, there must be something broke in this car, and I'm not seeing it. All the bushings are wore out of it. This car moves around so bad that you don't really want to stay in the throttle. I would not want to run this thing at a quarter-mile track. Yesterday, I took a guy for a ride, and we took it down a quarter-mile stretch, and it kind of scared both of us to where I should have probably let out a long time ago. But it's not fast. It's the rear end moving like this, and you're just holding on for life, right? So it's a weird deal. Let's see what else needs to be changed. I wanted to maybe put in a turbo 400 and use a converter that I already have, but I really like that overdrive on that 4L80, and it really makes it nice cruising. You're not running any kind of high RPM. It's not a bad transmission. I added a second transmission cooler, and that really seemed to help. I noticed it's doing good now. I just need a decent converter for it. So, you know, I'm on a tight budget, so you can't go out and spend $1,100 on a converter. Yeah, the intercooler piping would be a big thing. Yeah, put nitrous on it. Really, those are the big things. If I could get it tuned, and if I could get the intercoolers on it, the meth and the nitrous back on it, I would feel pretty good. I'm trying to do this within the next 3 weeks. There's a no prep race. The Neglection 2.0 no prep race is May 18th and 19th. The one I'm most interested in, the class I'm most interested in, is the hard tire class. I feel that car would do pretty good if I could get this lined out. Alright, well, that being said, I guess that's it. If anybody has any suggestions on anything at all, let me know. I already seen where some guys on the Sloppy Mechanics page are already shitting on the car. But you know what? I didn't build that to impress them. I just did it for myself, and you know, if it wasn't for Evan buying the car, I still wouldn't have a car to race. If it wasn't for all the other things I'm sacrificing right now, I still wouldn't be racing. Recently, someone moved out of the house. You know, they kind of took all their stuff. They did take all their stuff. Because I wanted them to. They, you know, it was their stuff. They paid money for it. They bought it, whatever. So, right now, I'm too busy to even go buy a bed. So, for the past month, I've been sleeping on the floor. And I remember reading an article from David Freiberger years ago. Whenever he come back to Hot Rod magazine, the title was Hot Rod or Homeless, and that always just stuck in my head. But he was talking about going back to Hot Rod magazine, and I just feel like I'm living by the motto: you can live in your car, but you can't race your house. So. Yeah, I've done with a lot or without a lot for the past month, and maybe I'll get some things caught up around here. So there's a lot to do, but at the same time, I would much rather go racing than go out and buy furniture, and I would just much rather go out and spend my time with the people that I like to be around. I don't want to be in the house. I don't want any reason to be in the house, but here I am. But at least I got a roof over my head, I guess. I had a good time Friday night. I talked to so many people. My gosh, there's so many people come up and look at that car, and I think they all were all thinking the same thing. Man, this car looks like it's going to run good, and then it was a turd. But I don't know that everybody knew the backstory behind this car. It wasn't running. It wasn't even close to being running a week ago or a week and a half ago. It was really just the engine was sitting in it. The transmission was sitting in it. That was about it. I'd had the car started after I had fuel hooked up, but then everything was taken back apart. I had built the hot side for the turbo stuff in like a matter of hours, not days, but hours. There was a lot going on in the past week, and you could tell by that one of them last videos I was starting to feel pretty tired. So yeah. Anyways, to all the viewers that maybe watched this whole video, thanks a lot. I appreciate it. To all the subscribers, appreciate it. They're still rolling in. Whether they like the car or not, I don't know. I get a lot of comments on stuff. It's usually from the same people, so I know there are some loyal subscribers out there. To the 2.8% of female viewers that have watched the videos, I appreciate you. Yeah, I guess I need to go outside and get to work. Alright. Have fun. See ya.